So we've decided to put a surgical team and crew into a submarine, reduce it way down in size, and inject it into an artery.
You mean I'm going along?
As part of the crew, yes.
Wait a minute. They can't shrink me.
Our miniaturizer can shrink anything.
But I don't want to be miniaturized.
All right, so this video we're going to go into some more of the diorama. I got some more materials for it and started building that and coming up with some great ideas. Making some great progress on that. I think it's going to be pretty cool. And so I'm going to still focus on this for now. I know I said I probably would return to the main kit, but for right now I'm going to focus on this a bit, see what I can do, and then work between the two. All right, let's see what I got accomplished. All right, so here's the final shape I decided on. As you can see, it's wide in the front here, and then the Proteus is going to be on this side of it, and it's going to be built up. So there's going to be a layer where the Proteus is crashed into, and there's going to be a shelf, and it's actually going to be angled so you can see the side of it, profile the blast in the side of it. I'm just kind of sitting it there for scale right now. And then around the edges and on the back and on the other side, I'm going to have the parts for the brain nerves sticking up out of it. I'm not going to have a roof or anything on it. It's just going to be something to look down onto. And about in this area, I'm going to have the figures, and I'm going to have the part of the nerves sticking up towards the end here, and they'll be blasting it with a laser, and the Proteus will be over there wrecked onto the side of the nerves, just short of its goal of hitting the nerves that Dr. Michaels was aiming for to try to kill Benish. So this is just the base. I have some styrofoam that I received here as well, and I'm going to start layering that on and building up the levels of the brain. And I have a few ideas on what to do for the nerves, like the curtain, spiderwebby kind of nerves. So I'm working on that. And as I get more of that done, I will show it here. All right. All right, so a little bit of a test shot to make the walls of the brain, the nerves, and things of that nature. So I used some cheap nylons and cut them up, and I want to try to get some sheer white ones so that they would take the paint a little bit better. But I painted it with some of the blue, some clear blue by Tamiya, a little bit of flat white. And then just kind of burned holes into it and put some black circles around them. And they're basically just stretched between some aluminum rod on either side. I just have it stretched between it and glued on the back. So it's really rough so far, but once I get a good result, I'll put it back on it as well, so you won't see any of that glue there. So that's kind of what I'm looking to do, and I'll have several of these, and they'll be angled and overlapping and just basically making up that look. I might streak it with some other bits of wash from the clear blue as well. I started working on an idea for the antibodies, and I just took some cotton and I painted it with some gloss coat. It's soaked in it pretty well, but it's not really hardening the way I want it to be. I might use something else, like some AC glue or something of that nature to make it more solid. But so a little bit more towards that, and then we'll keep working on that and see if we can finish up with the diorama. All right, so upon further viewing of this, I don't really like how this turned out. It's just way too stiff and kind of crappy looking. Not very translucent either. You can kind of see through it, but I want it to be very sheer. And so the nylon is only going to work. And I thought it turned out pretty well. Once it dried, that's pretty solid. I tried a little bit of paint because it shows like a brownish yellow inside, so probably have to thin that down quite a bit to get the look, but not too terrible. But the top worked out pretty well. That's stiff enough that it will stay in the shape I want it to be, so that kind of gives me what I'm looking for. Basically just some gloss paint over top of some cotton. So that's not too bad. This is not going to work. So I came up with some other ideas. I got some more materials to use. And I'm going to test each of these and try to see how they work out. So these are some very translucent materials. This one has a bit of a shimmer to it, which is nice, so that might work out well. Definitely very translucent, as you can see. So I can definitely use that on it. And some other ones I got, I have this one here, and this one's a lot shinier, which is kind of cool. A real nice sheen to it, so that might work really well. I like that. Also very translucent. Okay. And then I have another thin one that's more like a little netting. Very thin as well. Not sure that I like the pattern in it because it'll probably overpower the rest of it. But once I get them painted, and then this last one is a deep blue, and it looks more blue when it's folded in on itself, as you can see. So that'll work really good too. And what I can do as well, and I'll probably combine them, having layers of them. So I could have, like, for example, the very shiny one. Maybe put that over the blue. So we'll see. But I'm going to do some combinations of these so I come up with the effect that I want. That looks kind of cool. And of course I can paint them, and I can put the holes through them like I did there, and put some black around them. I also got some thin wire for making jewelry. It's easy to cut with scissors, but it's also strong enough that it should support this thin cloth here. So I'm going to play with that a little bit too, see how well these materials can take a hole through them, and like I said, I can even have certain parts of it. There's a bit of sparkling on there, but they're not really glittery. I just picked it up from some other ones, but I think these will work much better. And then I can also use the clear blue on that to augment it, but keep it nice and sheer. So I'm going to play around with that a bit, come up with a couple better ideas on the actual nerves in the walls, and they seem to be all different shapes, and some of them are just drooping, and some are angled, and some are just squares. So I'm going to work on that idea, see what I can come up with as far as the wall parts before I finish working on the base, the styrofoam itself. All right, so I got some goodies in the mail today. I got a light chasing set. They come from Evans Lighting. Originally I bought it from another company. I called them and they were out of these, but they had sold them to another retailer. It's 10 tiny cool nano lights that are all pre-wired together, and they're wired into a unit that causes them to light in sequence. They're basically designed for like a marquee, like a drive-in or a movie theater, that kind of thing. But what I'm going to use them for is I want to simulate the light impulses that are kind of flashing along and all at little angles along the nerve curtains, as I call them, which I'm using my very thin transparent material to make. So I kind of just tape these down. They're not in the right sequence. They are different sizes, and when you line them up, they will blink in sequence. It comes with 10 of them, but I also have from Evans Designs that I got previously the same type of cool white nano chip. Very tiny little chips. I have 6 more of them. So what I want to do is somewhere early on in here, I'm going to wire these, tape these all off in sequence so I know how they're going to blink in sequence, and I'm going to take 6 more and run them off in a different direction. So one side I'm going to have ones chasing off, another side chasing off another direction, but they'll all work off the same chaser and 9-volt battery. So I probably won't use a 9-volt battery. I'll probably get a 12-volt adapter to plug into the base so that lights it up better. So just to kind of do a rough test, like I said, I just have them arranged here, and I have it taped onto a little battery clip for a 9-volt battery, so we'll just plug that in. Oops. Come back here. Okay, and like I said, they're not in sequence, but you can see they're designed to blink, and you can arrange them in sequence, or I can arrange them out of sequence and moving in different odd patterns to simulate the various light impulses blinking within the brain like the movie showed. And so here's some of the material that I got, and I'll kind of lay it over it just to give you an idea of what that's going to look like. Here's some of the shimmery stuff. So that's kind of cool. It diffuses the light nicely. And this won't be just this material. It'll be painted and have the holes in it and the black markings and that sort of stuff. So but that's kind of cool. Give it that idea. I also have the blue, which I like, since the primary color of the brain is kind of like that blue. So that's kind of cool. Once again, how it diffuses that light and it blinks. And there'll be a little more of a pattern. It'll be repeating. So it'll probably start on one side and go like up and down and over, and then go and then start again. And then the other side, I'll do the same thing with the other 6. Have those going off in another odd pattern, because I'm going to have kind of a channel down the middle. I'm going to have the wall pattern on one side and on the other side as well. Keep that battery over. And kind of do a forced perspective between that. So that's kind of why I made my wooden base the way I did. As you can see, it's angled like this. And here's the front. So I'm going to have a light curtain, a couple rows going this way, some in the back, some going this way, and on this side a part of it is going to be smashed down and crushed by the Proteus that's going to be laying on top of it, and it's going to be angled. And in the middle part I'm going to have the little figures with the laser pointing up at the end here, which is going to have the blood clot. And so I'm going for somewhat of a forced perspective, where if you look at it from the front, it's going to angle upwards on both sides to the end where the blood clot is, where they're using the laser to dissolve it. So that's along the sides of these. You're going to have these lights like flickering and chasing and doing the same over here, and it's going to simulate kind of those nerve endings. And also I'm going to have some other little LEDs that are just blinking independently, and just have them there, maybe some solid ones as well. So that's going to work out pretty well. I like how that looks. And I'll have a couple of layers of this, so it won't just be one. You won't see the light behind it. You'll just see like the little light flickering through it and being diffused by that material. And I might even have a couple of layers, as I said, I'm still playing with to kind of get an idea. But I have some layers like that, so you might see the lights. Turn that off here. Yeah, so you might get something like that. So we'll see. I have several ideas on how to play with it, but those lights are going to be pretty cool. And it's hard to find chasing lights of that nature that weren't in some kind of a circular pattern, like a spinning UFO kind of thing. And these are super tiny, which is nice. I like the little nano ones, so they'll work fine. And get that going. So let me do a little bit more on the walls. I've decided to kind of go with an idea where I'm going to use some plexiglass or thin clear plastic, and I'm going to cut it in the shape of the pattern I want, and then put some folds or wrinkles in this, and I'm going to glue it onto it so it's on a more solid base. rather than trying to put it on posts or wires, and then it'll just go right down into the styrofoam base that I paint as well. So it'll come together a little more as I start getting some of these. I know it looks kind of rough in a lot of ideas, but once I get these walls down pat, the rest of it's going to be a breeze. All I'm going to do on my wooden base is make some styrofoam that I make different patterns on, and put some detail on it, paint it, and then the main part of this diorama is going to be these little wall brain nerve curtains, as I call them. In the movie, they hang down. I'll show you some images here in a second. You can tell that they're suspended from the ceiling by wires and ropes. So I'm not going to be doing that, of course. So I'm going to try to get that same general idea in a base that you can look down from or into from the front. And in addition, a lot of it's kind of spider webby. I'll probably end up using maybe some of that cottony material used for Halloween that stretches out and looks spider webby, and I'll probably stretch some of that between some of these and paint some clear coat on it so it makes it more solid and holds it in place. So we'll see. Once I get these all set up and ready to go, that'll be a long way towards the end of this project where I can start putting things together. So all right, so I kind of like that so far. That looks kind of cool. I can certainly use that to my advantage to come up with the nerve blinking effects that I want it to have. There we go. So, okay, great. All right. All right, so I did a little bit of test painting with some of the clear blue Tamiya paint on some of the materials that I got. And these are rough once again, so it's not going to look like this permanently. I just kind of suspended this between some posts just to have something to paint on from some styrofoam. So I still want to go with the idea of having these adhered to a plastic sheet that will be the form that I want, so that they're freestanding. But it looks pretty good so far. I like the I like this material here because it has the white base and it's shiny, so it gives off that little bit of shine. This is one of the ones I used as well with the lights that I demonstrated, so it deflects the light quite a bit, which is cool. So this is what I started with, and I have a loose piece here. Get off of there. And it's going to be just parts of it. Like the outer edges will be blue, the inner part will be still white, like you can see right there. And I can play with it and get thicker coats. Here it is on this suspended part. So that looks pretty good, actually, if you look at it that way. It looks really nice. It has like that white, almost off-white look to it in the middle, as you see in the movie, and the blue tinge around the edge. The clear paint is nice because it doesn't really take away from the fabric look or appearance. It still has that shimmery look to it, but it just blends in. Another thing that I'm doing as well is I bought some of this material that you use to make hems with in cloth and glue them together. It can be ironed and heated and it melts, which is kind of cool. And it looks like the image I want with the spider webby kind of look. So I put a little bit of blue paint on that, as you can see. Let me show you how it looks with this though, which is kind of cool. Yeah, so that's a lot closer to what I'm going for. Get it in the light. There we go, just like that. It's got that real organic look to it, so I really like that a lot. So imagine that I have it cut to shape over a piece of plastic, and of course there'll be the holes through it that have the black on it. So I think that's going to be the look I'm going to settle on. I really like that. The white underneath that's shimmery because it still shines through and gives it that look, but the spidery webbing looking stuff on the top of it, which is kind of cool. And I can also cut up little bits of this and make strings out of it to look like it's loose pieces and draping and that sort of thing. So I really like that a lot. That's a nice look. So I think that's what I'm going to end up going with. All right, and then these will be two-sided, of course. So I'm going to experiment a little bit with that. Get that up onto some plastic sheet, get some holes in it, and do some tests as well. All right. All right, so I did another little bit of test on this same piece here, and to do those little holes with the black marks on them. So I just took some matches, blew them out, melted through the material on both sides, and then I used some little plastic tubing to dip into some black paint and just put a ring around it. So I'll have to work on the patterning and you know, bigger and smaller, that kind of thing, but once again, that's generally what I'm kind of going for. And then I'll have more pronounced blue on the edges, as I was showing you. So I think that'll work out pretty cool. It's giving me the general idea that I want to see. So the next step now is to go ahead and get this adhered in some way onto some plastic sheet. I'll probably drill holes through where these little openings are going to be too in the plastic, and then just burn through the material onto the plastic. So alright, so that's shaping up, kind of looking like what I want it to look like, and this will be dirtied up some more and have some strings hanging down and things. So, but definitely moving towards the right direction on this. Alright. Alright, and here's another test to show kind of what I'm going to end up with on these nerve curtains. So this turned out really well. I took a piece of plexiglass, well, clear plastic, very thin plastic, and I just cut out a rough shape, and I'm going to make them all different sizes and, you know, maybe even a little bit taller. And I just used some spray adhesive, Melmers, put a light coat of that on, and there's two other fabrics I showed you, the white one and then the spider webby one. I just glued them onto it. Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot a step. Before that, I drilled holes through this plastic with my Dremel tool, and made them different sizes, and then I glued them on both sides, and it's dried. And then I just took some paint and I put some of the clear blue from Tamiya on the edges, left the rest of it the same color in the middle, and then just used some of these tubes and paintbrushes to highlight the dark circles around these holes. So get a good picture on that. Alright, so I think that turned out really well. It is still translucent. It's not completely see-through, but it will let light shine through it, which is kind of cool. And then there's that very organic spider webby looking pattern on it, which is kind of cool. I like that. And like I said, once I get these all together and I get several wall sections, I can use some of this and make it stringy and have it draped down and pieces looping down, and I'll attach those on as well. So that's turning out pretty nice. I really like that. That looks good. Definitely has the look that I'm trying for those walls. And then I can just either stick it down through the styrofoam base that'll be the floor of the brain, or I could leave some little pegs down on the bottom and adhere it, and it'll be glued into place, so these will be freestanding. And the nice thing about putting them on the plastic is that they stand up and they'll have that curtainy look when I'm done, but I don't actually have a roof on top where I have to hang them. That would be a really rough kind of a base for it if I had curtains and such. So these will be solid, and they'll get the look that I want. So I really like that. I left a few wrinkles in on some of the sides. I'm going to try to do more of that on further ones where I have it looking more wrinkly. But that's turning out pretty good. I really like that pattern right there. So, all right, great. So let me do a few more tests on this, but I'm pretty much ready to start working on the actual styrofoam base, the floor. So then when I start getting these all done, I can arrange them and figure out what kind of pattern. Some of these are going to be all white, some might be a lot more blue, and I'm going to mix it up a bit. Some of them I might have the fine mesh on top, some of them I may leave that other white material to give it a more glossy look, but I'll play with it and come up with a nice cohesive pattern. So that's turning out really well. I think this idea will work great. These materials are good for what I'm looking for from my brain diorama. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this week. Some really good progress on the brain curtains, as I call them, the nerve curtains. So I really like this. This worked out really well, where I can make it in a solid form and make them different sizes and shapes. So I'm going to continue focusing on these and then start working on the styrofoam base to put these down into. So, all right, so I will see you next week, and we'll get more progress done on this. Thank you.